We're about to eat Bún Chả.
I'm ready. One of my favorite meals of all time.
Can you believe this iconic meal happened almost 10 years ago? It was a defining moment for Vietnamese food when the world suddenly realized there was more than just pho and bánh mì. So today, let's recreate that exact Obama combo at home. I'm gonna show you a really easy way to make this in the oven, and it's still gonna taste super legit without a charcoal grill. So let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is talk about the proteins. Bún Chả Hanoi heavily relies on the use of pork, and it comes in two forms. It comes with slivers of charcoal grilled pork belly, but also these small, beautiful caramelized pork patties. And the presence of both kind of creates this nice textural contrast, which makes the meal more interesting. Today, I'm gonna be using these strips of pork belly. They still have the pork skin on, which I personally find really delicious because again, it adds a little bit of chewiness to the bite. If you don't like that, you can also buy it with the skin off. But something to remember is that you don't wanna cut them too thin because then they'll cook through too quickly and it's gonna dry out. But at the same time, you don't want it too thick because it's gonna be too chewy and hard to eat. And if you find that pork belly is a little bit too fatty for you, you can also use pork shoulder, which is a tad leaner, but I probably wouldn't do any leaner than that because you still want a little bit of fat to render through when you're cooking. In terms of the ground pork that I'm using for the pork patties, it's regular ground pork, which is an 80-20 mixture, which means that it has about 20% fat, which is perfect because it's gonna remain moist as we're cooking it. A lot of restaurants in Vietnam actually add additional fat into the patties to make it even more moist, but I don't need to be doing that today. So why don't we start off by seasoning our pork because it needs some time to sit in the marinade while we prepare the other things. So for both of these preparations of pork, it's pretty much gonna be the same seasoning. We're gonna be using a little bit of fish sauce, chicken bouillon, black pepper, a squirt of honey, or sugar. You can use sugar as well. Using honey or sugar is actually really important because that's what's gonna help the caramelization process as you're cooking it. That's what's gonna give it that beautiful amber on the outside and it's gonna help it char up too, okay? So don't skip that. Shallots, garlic, and that's it. I was actually gonna cut these up into smaller pieces because I want them to be bite-sized, like about this size. But then I thought it's gonna be too hard for me to flip them one by one. So I'm actually gonna leave it as this long strip and then I'll cut it later on just for easy cooking. So let's leave that one aside for just a second. This one, we're gonna actually add a little bit more shallots because that's what's gonna help the patties stay really, really moist. So let's leave that aside for at least an hour for it to marinate. The next thing we can work on is our pickled carrots and daikon and dipping sauce. These pickled carrots and daikon are gonna be submerged in a beautiful warm dipping sauce that's almost like a broth, but you don't drink it like a soup. You kind of just take your noodles and your pork and dip it in, kind of like eating soba noodles. I'm using carrots and daikon today because personally, I really like the bite of daikon, but traditionally, this dish uses green papaya, or sometimes it also uses kohlrabi. I typically julienne them for a lot of the other dishes that I make, but for this dish, I'm probably going to be cutting them into either half moons or quarter rounds. And after that, we'll just soak them in a very simple mixture of sugar, white vinegar, and warm water. To make this very special dipping sauce, we're gonna be combining granulated sugar with some hot water, vinegar, and some fish sauce. The ratios are slightly different than the traditional Nước Chấm, so check out the full recipe, which I'm gonna link below. You can also add some minced garlic if you don't have any important plans after your meal. You know, I actually didn't grow up eating a lot of Bún Chả. I don't think I had it until I traveled to Hanoi in my early 20s. It just wasn't something that was very common at the pho restaurants that we would go to. And to be honest, I don't think anyone paid attention to this dish until that Obama moment. And I swear after that, every food blogger and travel blogger was talking about this place, Bún Chả Hanoi. I swear that place hit the lottery when Bourdain's production team decided to select it to be featured.
Mình không nghĩ là ông đến quán mình, tại vì nghĩ là người ta tổng thống chắc là vào khách sạn chứ vào thì quán bình dân.
And they and so many other Vietnamese restaurants took the opportunity to capitalize on that very moment. I think I saw that they made like a mini museum in that place now. Like there's a glass enclosure around the table that Obama sat at and everything. I don't know. Is it the best bún chả that you can find in Hanoi? Probably not. I think it was probably picked because it was safe, secure, and logistically manageable for the production team. But there's so many other places in the Old Quarter that's probably more legit and tastes better. When you're traveling in Hanoi, especially in the Old Quarter, you don't have to go and find Bún Chả. It'll find you. And you turn a corner and a billow of smoke just hits you in the face and all you can smell is that beautiful charcoal grill. You're home. Now, let's cook our rice vermicelli noodles in boiling water for roughly 9 minutes until al dente. Then, rinse it in some cold water and let it sit to drain. When I first married my husband, there were so many moments of confusion because he grew up speaking with a southern dialect while I grew up in a northern household. So there were just so many names for different things that were different. To this day, I'm not even sure he knows what I'm referring to when I say Bún Chả. In the South, when you hear the word chả, you immediately think of chả luộc, which is the pork sausage that's commonly found in the bánh mì sandwiches, right? But the word chả is more of a broad term, and it describes meat that's been processed in any way. So when they say bún chả, they're actually referring to pork that's been ground and formed into these little patties. This is chả. So I'm forming these small little patties. They're like a similar size to a small burger slider, about 2 inches. And you don't want them too thick. I like to pat them a little bit flat. That way they can cook through really quickly when we're broiling them. Because we're gonna have to do this at a high temperature so the outside chars. We want to ensure that it cooks evenly on the inside as well. Now let's crank on the broiler and get to cooking. Okay, we'll see you later. I'm gonna cook this at a low broil for roughly 8 minutes on each side. After the initial 8 minutes is up, take it out of the oven and flip both of the pork belly and pork patties over so the other side can char. Pop them back in the oven for another 6 minutes, and during the last 2 minutes or so, crank it up to a high broil so you can get a really nice caramelized crust. Remember to rotate your tray if you're finding that there's uneven heat in your oven. This is looking so bomb. I'm gonna cut these strips into small bite-sized pieces, just like this. Look at this. Look how nice and succulent this looks. I can't wait. Now on to plating. Let's put a couple of pieces of that juicy goodness into a small bowl. Then start piling on those pork patties. Keep going. No one's judging you. And now, ladle that beautiful sauce onto these bad boys. Top it off with those pickled carrots and daikon and a few pieces of chili if you like it hot. And there she is, in all her glory. Bouncy noodles, fresh vivacious herbs, and glorious grilled goodness just waiting to be devoured. The wait is over. I'm going in. Wow, look at this, guys. This looks amazing. So let's have a taste. So there's actually a technique to how you're supposed to eat this. So you're supposed to take a bundle of noodles, dip it into the sauce, and then have a bite. Then just go from there. Take a piece of pork belly, maybe a couple pieces of the herbs and the pickles, and choose your own adventure. Each bite is a different texture and a different flavor. Well, guys, this was it. The presidential combo right at home. So good, so easy. If you'd like to learn more legit Vietnamese recipes that you can cook easily at home, remember to subscribe to my channel and check out my blog at nowinspirednancy.com. See you next week.